In this video, I'm going to discuss the millionaire habits that are going to change your life if you implement them. Because of Ken, I've hung around with a lot of successful people. And in doing so, I've picked up some habits that are pretty common amongst most of the people we hang around. Most of the people that have been successful that we associate with. And I thought that if I would have known these habits in my younger days, it would have helped me a lot. So I wanted to share them with you. Number one is to keep track of what you're spending money on. So I think a lot of people think that with a millionaire, they would just spend money on everything and they would not need to manage their finances or their budget. But from what I've seen, that's very opposite of what most of these millionaires do. Most of them keep track of everything, and they either figure out ways that something expensive can pay for itself, or they budget money in order to be able to purchase bigger items. And their bigger items would be similar to your smaller items. They know what they're spending money on. I think a lot of times when people see somebody that's a millionaire, they just assume they just buy whatever and they're just running their credit card all the time and they don't need to pay attention to their finances. But that's not what I've seen. What I've seen is most of these millionaires understand where all of their money is going. They understand what they're buying and when they're buying it. And if they're making big purchases, they're either figuring out a way where the purchase can pay for itself, or they're either figuring out ways to make money on the bigger items that they're purchasing, or they're really analyzing to make sure that's something they really want before making that purchase. I know when Ken buys a large purchase, he figures out a way to make it pay for itself. For example, we recently bought a boat, but we're only going to be using it for 1 month in the summer. So he's put it into a boat rental so that we can make money on the boat that will kind of pay for the monthly costs of the boat. So that's a very common thing that I've seen millionaires do. We have a lot of friends where they have secondary homes and they Airbnb them, or that they have even private planes and they put them in some kind of rental pool and they're able to make money on those items. So I think it's important to understand that millionaires don't necessarily spend frivolously. And so if you would implement that in your own life at a smaller scale, it could be very beneficial for you. For example, one of our employees here wanted to buy a certain piece of equipment and it was expensive. But what he did is he found 4 other people that wanted the same equipment. He marked it up a little bit. He bought all 5. He kept one, gave everybody else one, and his was paid for. That's the kind of stuff that millionaires do. And that's kind of where your head should be focused when you're looking to purchase items that are expensive for you in the future. The second thing that I've seen a lot of millionaires do is they don't buy things to try to prove anything, but they buy items that they really want. You can be a clothes guy, you can be a car guy, you can be a vacation guy, but you can't be all of those or you'll be a broke guy. So that's what I've seen a lot of wealthy people know and realize. They might like, nice watches, but then they might wear cheaper clothes, or they might drive a nice car, but they might not go on that many vacations. So they really allocate where they're spending their money and they don't spend it on everything. So my advice is as you start to climb the ladder and make more and more money, make sure that you're just not blowing it on everything, but you're really deciding what items you want to spend money on and what items you want to budget on. I even know with Ken, sometimes he can be mindful around a lot of things. And one of those things is even the dog food that we buy. We used to buy our dog really nice dog food, but now he's realized that it's less expensive for him to just make it himself. So that's what he does each and every week. 3, millionaires tend to act like their money isn't even there. So what I mean by this is a lot of times people that don't have a lot of money, all their money is in their bank account and they can look at it and see it and spend it every single day. But millionaires, they invest in things. They invest in stocks, they invest in real estate, they invest in other companies, and their money isn't accessible to them, but their money passively makes money. So if you want to build real wealth, you can't just have all your money sitting in a checking and savings account that you're looking at every day. You need to start investing it in other things in order to get that passive income going, and that passive income is what's going to really make you wealthy one day. The fourth thing millionaires don't do is they don't invest in things that they don't understand. Interestingly enough, we were watching the Bernie Madoff series on Netflix, and I was saying that I felt bad for the people that invested with Bernie because they had no idea that he was scamming them and running a Ponzi scheme. And I thought Ken was going to agree with me, but instead he just says he would never have invested with him. And I said, how can you be so sure? And he said, because I would have asked him how he was getting 15% returns, which in the documentary, they kept saying that Bernie would kind of blow people off and say, well, if you need an explanation, then just don't invest with me. And Ken said that kind of things happen to him, and he just won't do it unless he understands where he's putting his money and why he's getting the return. And in fact, FTX wanted to advertise on our show. And the reason that we didn't do it is because Ken just didn't understand the company, didn't understand how they were making money, and really doesn't understand crypto in general. So that's why he declined to do it. And I think most millionaires operate this way. So the advice to you would be, don't invest your money in things that you don't understand. Make sure wherever you're putting your money, you truly understand how it's making money, where the good investment is, and how to properly invest. And that's what we try to teach on our show with real estate, because so many people make bad real estate investments. On the Ken McElroy show, we really try to help you guys understand what you're doing. We really try to help you guys really understand what you're doing and what you're investing in and why the cash flow works. That way you're not at the mercy of somebody just telling you that it's a good deal. The fifth thing is, don't time the market. Millionaires don't try and time a market, because truthfully, you can't. When you try to time a market, all you're doing is gambling. For example, with the real estate market, if you try to time the market when you sell, generally you sell too late, which is what's happening with people now as prices start to come down. Or if you a buyer, you buy too early when prices are still falling. It's all about the cash flow, and if cash flow works, you should do the deal. It's better to stick with the cash flow fundamentals than trying to time anything. Timing is only gambling. From what I've seen, most millionaires don't try to time the market. Like I said before, they simply let their investments ride out and know over time that they're going to make money. That's why Ken and MC companies rarely sell a deal. That's because they believe in cash flow instead of capital gains, and you should just let these investments ride out and live on the money that they're producing. Number 6 is understanding the tax code. Millionaires understand tax, period. The average person does not understand the tax code. And I get it. It's so boring. I just recently, over the last couple of years, started to study the tax code myself. However, the tax code is the key to everything. Money is made and lost due to the taxes. What Ken showed me is the government really does show you where they want you to spend your money. Where they want you to spend your money, you get tax breaks. And that's what you really need to pay attention to. And that's why the tax code is so important. That's why real estate is so beneficial for tax purposes. Because in this country, we need housing. The government is not going to provide housing, and they don't want to be a landlord. So they depend on people to develop rental properties. And that can be mom and pop people like myself, or big companies like MC companies. But either way, we get these tax benefits for providing housing. The reason the government does that isn't because they just feel like being nice or they just made it up. The reason is they need that incentive for people to want to own rental property, for other people to be able to rent that property and have a place to live. All tax breaks are, and all the tax code is a roadmap to what the government wants you to do. So millionaires are really, really good at taking advantage of the tax code. And that's something that if you haven't looked at and you haven't studied, I highly encourage you to do so.